Now I'm going to show you about importing text that you create in Photoshop and using that in After Effects. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to get rid of this here that we're using. Now it's just blank. So you're going to import it just as you would import, other Photoshop layers or other files. We just go to File, Import, File, and we need to go and find that. And I put it on the desktop and it's under source material, PSD files, and Photoshop text. Now it's always going to give you this option when you're working with Photoshop stuff. So do you want to import it as footage, a composition, or a composition retain layer sizes? And I would suggest using composition retain layer sizes. So whatever kind of size that you made in Photoshop, it'll maintain that size when you bring it into After Effects. And it gives you more options: editable layer styles or merge layer styles into footage. And it gives you the instructions here depending on which one that you want to do. We want to keep it editable. Okay, so it's here, and it creates its own composition, and it creates the folder where the file, like the specific layers from Photoshop live, with the background, the white, and I just had the text. It's very simple just for this demonstration. So what I do, I don't need the background, I just want the text. So I'm going to take the text down here. But it's black, I can't see it. So this is where hitting this button would come in, the toggle transparency grid button. There. Now we can see it. So we have the Photoshop layer directly here in After Effects. That's great. That's what we wanted. And we can come in here and animate the layer just as we did before. But notice it only gives you the transform option. It doesn't give you the text options because you created this text in Photoshop. You're restricted to using the transforms options. But if maybe you created some really nice looking text in Photoshop that you went in and created manually or created with the paintbrush, this is when you would bring it into After Effects. And we can still animate it. Even though there are some restrictions, we can still animate its position, we can still animate its rotation. We can scale it down, but I wouldn't scale it up, and here's why. Look when we scale it up. And look what it's turning into. Now, we are on a quarter, but we'll turn it to a full viewing capacity. And it's starting to get a little blurry. So when we scale it up like that, see, it's getting blurry around all these edges. It's not crisp like we would want it. And this is because of rasterization. Because Photoshop is an application where you make images or text, it rasterizes them, or it makes them at one specific size, and you have to design things specifically to that size. So when I open up the Photoshop here, this canvas size is the exact same size as my composition size in After Effects. So if we put this back to 100%, see, it's the exact same size, this layer, as the size I used in Photoshop. So you want to keep that in mind when you're designing things for Photoshop that you're going to bring into After Effects, you're going to want to use the same composition size. So this is the limitations of working with Photoshop text. Is if you want to do anything with making this bigger, it's going to create rasterization problems, or it's just going to start making things look blurry and pixelated. But you can still animate with all these different principles that you could with normal text in After Effects.